La educación es el proceso de aprender a crearnos a nosotros mismos y eso es lo que fomentan las artes, entendidas como un proceso y como los frutos de ese proceso. El trabajo artístico no solo es una manera de crear acciones y productos, es una manera de crear nuestras vidas ampliando nuestra conciencia, conformando nuestras actitudes, satisfaciendo nuestra búsqueda de significado, estableciendo contacto con los demás y compartiendo una cultura. Profesor de arte, investigador educativo y autor de estudios fundamentales en el campo de la educación artística, el doctor Elliot Eisner se ha convertido en uno de los conocedores más profundos de la relación que existe entre el arte y el pensamiento. Desde 1965 imparte clases en la Universidad de Stanford, California, Estados Unidos, donde ha desarrollado importantes trabajos acerca de estudios curriculares, evaluación y metodología de investigación cualitativa aplicada a la educación artística. Además, ha desempeñado funciones honoríficas en varias instituciones, entre las que destaca la de asesor del Centro Paul Getty para la Educación en Artes en Los Ángeles, California. Entre sus principales publicaciones traducidas al español se encuentran Educar la visión artística, Procesos cognitivos y currículum, El ojo ilustrado, Indagación cualitativa y mejora de la práctica educativa, El tipo de escuelas que necesitamos y El arte y la creación de la mente, El papel de las artes visuales en la transformación de la conciencia. En 2002, el profesor Eisner ofreció una conferencia magistral durante el Coloquio Internacional de Educación Artística, organizado por la Secretaría de Educación Pública, en la que hizo una revisión y análisis de las contribuciones que las artes ofrecen al currículo. En la siguiente conversación nos habla acerca de las funciones cognitivas que el arte cumple en la formación de nuestros alumnos, funciones cognitivas que, según sus propias palabras, contribuyen a dar sentido a la educación y a enriquecer sus fines.
I'd like to talk to you today about art education. Indeed, I'd like to talk with you about arts education and why a culture, why a society, why education in Mexico should pay attention to the arts. After all, there are many things that are important in schools, and the arts are only one of a number competing for attention. First of all, what is it that we want to accomplish in working in the arts with youngsters? What's important to try to achieve? As I see it, there are really three things that matter most. One has to do with the development of mind, and I'll talk about that in a moment. A second has to do with matters of meaning, how things signify. And a third has to do with the kind of experience that people have, that youngsters have, that adolescents have when they work in the arts. In a very interesting way, the idea that mind comes into existence in the course of human development within a culture is a revolutionary notion. We tend to think about minds as qualities of the human being that are born with the human being. But in a certain sense, that's not exactly right. The kinds of minds that people come to develop, that they come to own, is profoundly influenced by the kind of experiences they have in their life. Brains are biological. People do come into the world with brains, but they don't come into the world with minds. Minds are developed through experience. And for children, the experience that they get in school is profoundly influenced by the curriculum that's offered to them. The curriculum basically is a mind-altering device. It's a way of changing the way in which people think. So what we want to do is to try to make sure that when we provide a curriculum in a school, it gives children the opportunity to develop their minds in various ways. The arts are among the most important. So the first point I would like to get across is that minds are made, brains are born, and that the school itself has a major function to play in bringing minds into existence. I mentioned the curriculum and that the idea that the curriculum is a mind-altering device. What do I mean by saying it's a mind-altering device? Well, children develop mental skills on the basis of what they have to practice, and that's where the arts come in, because the arts make it possible for students to work on certain kinds of problems that no other field makes possible. For example, giving children the opportunity to work on problems that don't have single correct answers. So much of what students study in school has one answer for every question, one solution for every problem. Consider, for example, learning to spell, or learning to punctuate, or learning to do arithmetic. Those tasks have correct answers. The teachers know the answers, and the students are supposed to acquire the skills to get the correct answer. Thinking is convergent, from the problem converging to the solution. In the arts, there isn't a single correct answer. There are many possible answers, and so the space is made available for children to think individually, to think about problems that they can solve in distinctive ways. The arts make it possible for children and adolescents to put their thumbprint on their own work. And that's very important because most of the large problems in life, most of the big things that we have to deal with in our lives as adults, don't have simple, singular answers. There are multiple considerations. There are different ways to go about solving problems. So the arts provide a closer approximation to the kinds of problems life will make available to them than many of the subjects that we now teach. Take the business of putting things together, how it is that individuals who work on a painting or a poem or a dance or a piece of music make relationships between the qualities that they work with. A composer of music, for example, has to work with auditory qualities, how things sound, and he or she has to arrange those qualities to make music that signifies something that's important. A painter has to compose visual qualities that work together in a harmonious way. Now, when youngsters go to school, they also have to put things together, but they put things together according to rule, according to what's called an algorithm. Again, if you think about arithmetic, when youngsters are organizing addition problems, they're responding to problems in subtraction, or problems in multiplication, or problems in division, there's a way to prove the answer, to make sure that the answer is correct. If you multiply, you divide. If you divide, you multiply. If you add, you subtract. If you subtract, you add. And so there are algorithms, there are procedures for knowing you're right. How does someone know when a painting is finished? How does someone know when the work is well organized? How does someone know what needs attention in a poem, in a painting, in a piece of sculpture, in a dance? It's here that embodied knowledge comes to play. The person has to feel the rightness of the possible solution to that problem, and there are many possible solutions. So what the arts cultivate is careful attention to qualities and their relationships. And again, in life outside of school, those are the qualities that we have to pay attention to. How we relate to people, the manner in which we say things, the way in which we arrange our homes, how we put ourselves together with our clothing. There are no rules. There are considerations. Those considerations depend upon body knowledge, on a sense of rightness. And what Nelson Goodman, philosopher at Harvard University, calls rightness of fit. So the arts promote a rightness of fit. The arts also promote the ability to change horses in the middle of the stream. Now, what I mean by changing horses in the middle of the stream is that in the course of working, new ideas emerge. And those new ideas, in a certain sense, emerge from the work, so that the relationship between the maker and the work is a dialogue, is a dialectical relationship. And sometimes the work, in a certain sense, will tell you where it wants to go. So knowing how to follow new leads, knowing how to pursue new opportunities, changing goals in the middle is one of the things that the arts pay attention to and that they provide. So rather than being mechanical, rather than being rigid, rather than being formulaic, the arts offer children the opportunity to think in new ways, to formulate new goals in process. That is extremely important. Another thing that the arts cultivate is the ability to pay attention to nuance, the nuance that makes a form expressive. See, if the arts are about anything, they are about expressive form, how things feel. By creating a form that generates feeling, the artist communicates a certain attitude towards something. So if you look at the paintings of Diego Rivera or Rufino Tamayo, there's a certain kind of feeling, a certain kind of sense that it exudes. And it exudes that because Rufino Tamayo and Diego Rivera put those forms together in a particular way, so that youngsters learn in the arts that form expresses content, and that we can go to form to get a content that we can't get any other place. And people have always had the need to be able to do that. If you go to church, the church is choreographed. It's like a dance. If you go to look at the architecture, it has a certain kind of feel to it. If you go to and look at what people did when 9/11 struck in New York City, they made little cathedrals on the sidewalk to express their grief. We have a need to say things through the arts that we cannot say in literal form. So the arts are a major form of expression and a major form of appreciation. They cultivate the opportunity to say things that transcend the limits of literal language. And finally, what the arts are about is they're about a certain quality of human experience that's satisfying. We go to a symphony and we hear it, a wonderful symphony being performed, or a beautiful piece of music at a